আমার বইটা এমনি আচ্ছা আমার বইটা আমি একজনের কাছে পাঠিয়েছি কলকাতায়।
হ্যাঁ।
ও কম পয়সায় দিতে পারে কপি, বাট আই ডোন্ট নো।
আচ্ছা।
তুই তো মালদায় থাকো, রাইট?
না,
কোথায় থাকো?
মানে ওটা কারোকে বলি না আর কি।
আচ্ছা, বলো না, তাই ঠিক আছে। হ্যাঁ, না কিন্তু তাহলে তোমার যদি লাগে তাহলে পেতে পারো আর কি।
আচ্ছা, তা ওনার কোনো ওয়েবসাইট লিঙ্ক থাকলে সেটা পাঠিয়ে দিতে পারেন, তাহলে আমার কমিউনিটি ট্যাব থেকে পোস্ট করে দেবো।
ওয়েবসাইট কিছু নেই, ওকে ফোন করে যেতে হবে
ও
আর কি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। Hello, guys. Thank you for joining the podcast today. Today, we have our first guest who is not hiding behind any anonymity, who is actually showing his face, who has written, which I think is probably the best book to come out from this publication. The book I recommended a month back from my community tab, The Majoritarian Myth, destroying and debunking the idea that anywhere, no matter what religion, no matter what's the political view, no matter who is it, it's always the majority oppressing the minority. This stupid view has been absolutely destroyed, debunked completely with countless examples, data, everything in this book by Professor Kausik Gangopadhyay, Dr. Kausik Gangopadhyay. He's a professor of economics at IIM Kozhikode. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the place properly. And he's a PhD from University of Rochester in economics. And he, like me, is a fan of Thomas Sowell as well. And he has in fact written a sort of an ode to Thomas Sowell in his personal blog as well, which you should read. And I just remember that I should have put that in my description box, so I'll add that later on as well. So thank you very much, sir, for joining my podcast.
Namaskar, Niranjan, and I also say my greetings to your viewers. I'm very proud and honored to connect to them.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, the antidote to the majoritarian myth that you have come up with, it's called LTSE, Linear Theory of Social Evolution. Is it completely your original idea, or were you building upon something else or someone else's work?
So, in the sociology, so this book, Niranjan, you have to understand one thing. This book is written completely from the vocabulary of the left.
Yeah.
So, so what I have done, I have not actually not treated the left as they have any malintention.
Right.
I treated that they have the best of the intention. Now I try to examine their case from the scientific basis.
Yes.
So this idea of this LTSC, I'm just stopping for a moment. Is the voice coming all right to your viewers? Yeah, that's all. Yeah. So basically, this LTSC is a sociological idea. There are linear theories, there are cyclical theories, there are different types of theories that is already there. So one of the very famous person who mentioned this is which is actually basically blue-eyed boy of the liberals, Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah.
He has a book Sapiens where he has actually written this idea of the linear theory, and he has written that before Christianity, the idea actually, like if you go to the Greek historian Herodotus, and then if you go to Chinese historians, he didn't mention India. He didn't take India that seriously, I suppose.
Yeah.
But of course India also. We all have the cyclical theories. Things are like, we have a saying of Chanakya, right? Chakravat Parivartante Sukhanica Dukhanica, right?
Yeah.
The joy and the happiness and the sorrow comes in cycles.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of idea.
Yes, sir. So, what exactly is linear theory of social evolution? Why should that trump over someone being an oppressor just because they are a majority?
So this basic idea comes from the psychology. So you see, human beings, we have a imagined reality. Yeah, if I give you one example, this is coming from Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a very famous psychologist who actually lived in the concentration camp. And he has a book, Man's Search for Meaning. So it's a very famous book, and it is so there are three psychological schools. One is, of course, by Freud. Second is by Jung, and this third is by Viktor Frankl. These are all three are Austrian schools. So this Viktor Frankl, his school, his idea is basically there is something inner meaning to human beings. Now he has given that imagined realities can dictate human beings very well. So he has given an example. So in this kind of prison camps, there are rumors circulating around all the time. Now these rumors, they can be correct, they can be wrong, but that actually gives people hope. and people cling on to this hope, right? There is
Yeah.
another hope there. So one of the rumor was on 31st May or something, I don't remember the exact date.
Hmm.
The Allied forces or Red forces, whatever it is, they will capture the concentration camp and they will release all the prisoners.
Okay.
And people
I
got so
see.
much addicted to that hope, right?
I see.
So one friend of Frankel, who was on this camp, he actually was very passionate kind of votary of that myth and
I see.
rumor. And he said that this is going to happen. Then that happened. Date went past, nothing happened. That guy was the healthiest, or sort of very healthy.
Right.
Just right after the date went by, suddenly he developed physical discomfort and he perished. He died in a day
Hmm.
or two. Now, what Viktor Frankl analyzes out of it, this imagined reality dictates human beings. Right?
Hmm.
So the linear theory is sort of what happens. You see, we are very small creatures. We cannot make enough things. I mean, even if you're running this YouTube channel, you are doing great job. I'm very envious of you that you are doing so much. I mean, running so many things. But the point, I cannot do myself. I know that. But then the point is, uh, even then, if you look at the entire world, right, this entire universe, forget about this observable universe. Just think about the world.
Hmm.
We are very small entity ourselves,
Hmm.
right? And then of course there are so many planets that could be
Yeah.
lives around. Now, and if you look at the entire span of history, right? If you look at the Sagan's calendar, so if it's like the entire creation is like 1 year, we are not even a second, right? Something like that. Now, if you look at in these kind of things, our existence is so small.
Hmm.
We like to feel we are bigger than that. That's our ego.
Hmm.
And that ego is satisfied the moment you have a theory. The theory says you are kind of sort of the reason, right? You believe that the entire world is going to be Marxist. So you feel your ego will be satisfied, you become a Marxist. And
Yes.
then when you had anything is happening, it is happening because of you. You joined and then everybody joined.
Yeah.
So you are sort of a linear movement, right? And these actually imagine reality. This actually makes people can react very violently, right? I given the example of Frankel's friend. He died because there is no other way he could react. He could not attack
Right.
anyone, right? In a concentration camp. But if you have power and if your imagine reality is distorted, then of course people will react. So it happened that my father, he was a communist and he became lapsed. Now, once you become an ex-communist, you try to go to the communists and show to them that this is the wrong in your theory or sort of like that.
Huh.
Now, he was a very, I would say, very ahimsak, non-violent kind of person, and he was a philosophical person. I am sort of not so philosophical, not so violent, so you can imagine a little bit. So now, but he used to be hated by these people
Yeah.
because not for any other reason. That not that he's doing any problem or anything like that, but because they're showing the problem in the linear theory, they used to get angry at that.
Apostasy.
Apostasy, heresy, whatever you call it, they are the worst of the creatures.
Yes.
Heretics. Yeah.
So you have said that there are two distinct characteristics of this thing called linear theory of social evolution, that you believe that you or your group or your ideology has a beginning point and an end point. And there are certain principles that you have set in the beginning of the ideology which you are not going to change at any cost even when you are faced with empirical evidence.
So data doesn't matter. Theory is given, theory is fixed.
Yeah. So how would that be different from, let's say, any views in Hinduism as well? Because we can't change. Are we allowed to change then anything and everything in front of data? Or there should be some core principles in Hinduism as well?
So the idea of the other thing, so basically this LTSC, this you can think of sort of Christian inspired ideologies. Christianity is the first one. In the entire other things like, Islam is very similar. And then of course, I'm talking political versions of course. And then there are other things like Marxism, racism, Nazism, all these kind of offshoots came up in the Christian society.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the other people, these people, they don't have any sort of theory. We are sort of bound by whatever experiences come. So if you look at this original Vedas, I mean, this is what the Kuran else writes. Original Vedas, there is no idea of this idea of the reincarnation. We are agnostic about it. Don't know what is going on.
Okay.
But later, and in the Upanishads, which are written towards the end of the Vedic age, their reincarnation is sort of ascertain because
Yes.
there's a lot of data coming in. People are probably talking about their past births and
Yes.
they're matching the data or
Yes.
something like that. So it is actually evolving around.
Yes.
So there is no sort of one unified theory
Hmm.
in sort of Hinduism at all.
Yeah.
In fact, he also said Hinduism, we don't know what is there is a beginning point or end point. Right? We say that there is a universe that will end, again another will spawn, another will spawn.
Yeah.
So this is like endless kind of cycle kind of thing.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah, you're gone.
no, I mean go ahead. I mean
Okay. So,
because I'm a little professorial and preachy,
yeah.
I tend to go on long. So
No,
please
no.
feel free to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
Uh,
So, when, how do you think this majoritarian myth is being kept alive? And why do you think it's such a sellable product? Why is everyone so easily jumping onto this idea? Why is it so easy to convince someone that yeah, if it's a majority, then there's definitely a chance that group will kill a smaller group?
So basically, the answer lies on the cultural Marxist takeover of the academia.
Okay.
So it is, I mean, explain Gramsci. I'll come back to the theory. But there is something, a backstory to that.
Okay.
And this I have not explained in my book.
Hmm.
So there is a book by Samuel Huntington. The name of the book is The Clash of the Civilization.
Yes.
And the book actually saying that now the global, and this book is written in the 1980, so
Yes.
like 40 years ago. So he's saying like, yeah, so now that we are at the peak of the global order, the West, but it won't be like that. Other civilizations, they are growing faster than us. And he has identified 7 civilizations. One is China, then Islamic, then Hindu, Indian. I mean, he said Hindus, and then he said Buddhist, Japanese, and then he probably said Latin American, African way.
Yeah.
So he said the others will gaining power, and the moment we will gain power, they will assert themselves.
Yes.
So basically, he is saying that West will be challenged. So there are one view that there will be end of the history and the West it will go on like that. But Huntington said no, it don't happen. They will challenge. And actually, comes out. I mean, I really pay respect to him. He came out very, very foresightful. I mean, that moment nobody thought that America's dominance can be challenged. But we now it looks like American dominance is only 1 or 2 decades away. I mean, the way the other people are kind of growing up, I don't think the West can actually sustain this hegemony for long. Now, what is happening there? That now he is suggesting that other civilization they will go, and they has given a roadmap also. He said that Chinese and the Islamic they will probably join hand, they will come up outside and this and that. And he has actually done. Now, what he has not said, and he has also said that how to counter this and that. Now, not everything is written. Authors know that.
Yeah.
So what will happen that I think what he meant to say that to disrupt other civilizations, we have to actually look at their weakness, fault lines, and aggravate attack on that. Now, you see, if you look at India, what is the India's biggest fault line? The biggest fault line of India is basically we do not have a assertive identity. Whatever you call it Indic identity or whatever identity, we don't have any. Now, because we are sort of like to think we are really different, but that's pretty much it. We don't know what is different and what is it, and that's sort of that. And it was much worse even in the 80s.
Yeah.
Now, the way they see the fault line can be managed if they always make a perpetual kind of wedge between the between basically the Hindus and the other people. Then there is actually a perpetual wedge going on, and that's how they will kind of make India cannot let India become a superpower.
Yeah.
Otherwise, India is always, if you look at the historically, it is a very prosperous country because of geography and other reasons.
Yes.
So if they cannot have a political instability, they can't do that. Now, the one way that's the West play, they actually manufactured a narrative. And the narrative that holds well for India is the majoritarian narrative. Right? Hindus are bad because they are majority. Yeah. That's it, right? And that kind of that theory kind of works well. Yeah. And because we look at up to the West, so we buy that theory, and our kids who are going to schools and institutes and universities, and they're learning the theory, and they're going to media, they're going to pop culture, and they're bringing that theory out.
Right.
So it's a very sure way of doing. So I've given the survey, right, in my book, that points out to that basically particular design.
Yes. Are you aware of Amartya Sen's criticism of this idea of clash of civilizations?
I know generally.
Yeah.
So Amartya Sen's criticism is actually not his original.
Hmm.
It is actually criticism given by another person, which is who has given who has written this book, The End of History.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is written by basically Japanese-born American. His name is
Yeah. Miyamoto Musashi.
yeah, I mean, it come to my mind. But basically, this end of history, the argument is that before what we had an identity and something like that.
Yeah.
But now that is going to not last. We will have an age of democracy, right?
Yes.
So this is by sorry, I remember the name. It's called Francis Fukuyama.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Francis Fukuyama.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Francis Fukuyama, he also very he's also mentioned
Hmm.
in this book of the Samuelson. His name is also mentioned. He said that
Hmm.
he doesn't agree with this part of view. And
Hmm.
now this Fukuyama's argument is the end of history, and then all the basically national identities will go away,
Hmm.
and then eventually we'll have a very global humanity in the liberal democracy, and so there will be no. But funny thing is, it is said this lasted for 110 days or so, something like that.
Hmm.
Because after writing this book, after 110 days, and this is the end of Soviet bloc, so
Hmm.
communism has died completely.
Hmm.
So everybody thought this is the one superpower now, this liberal democracy, everything
Yeah.
is homogeneous. And within 110 days, this conflict started. Uh, I think was it in some East European, this I think this Albania, Kosovo, that Balkan, some conflict started,
Hmm.
and then basically that now there is of course there are huge conflicts going on Western nationalism, right? In
Yeah.
China is kind of threatening
Yeah.
Taiwan, but that time that actually started that time very weak country.
Hmm.
So
What is the Indian identity then, and what should it be? Because Amartya Sen's criticism is that even if you claim that they are civilizations, but you are basing that civilization only on religion,
mhm.
what would be the Indian identity then? Should it be
So
just
the
religion?
problem is that the Amartya Sen and the secular people they
Hmm.
think that religion is sort of bad thing.
Hmm.
The point is, okay, religion, of course, it's a theory and it has dictated and it has a lot of issues in many places. But in India, there is no systematic organized religion like it was in the West. In the
Hmm.
West, the churches they used to have like 1/3 or 1/4 of the land under their control. Right? There's a huge protest
Hmm.
against the Pope, and the Protestant movement started.
Yeah.
Those kind of things not there. So one of the person who said that is an Indian socialist. His name is, I mean, just making it dramatic, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose.
Okay.
He actually has a lecture in Rangpur or something like that. I think 1926 or something. And he said that in India we do not have any uh, kind of resentment against religion per se.
Hmm.
Because our religion never told us basically the sun revolves around the earth and you have to
Hmm.
accept it. It never said.
Yeah.
It said whatever you feel right and just do everything, but you have to have your conscience or dharma
Hmm.
awake all this.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that everybody who said themselves religious or dharmic they're right,
Hmm.
but that's kind of but there is always a deviation. But the idea of dharma, I don't like the word religion because it's an
Hmm.
European word.
Yeah.
So dharma, the word is basically the word dharma means sustainable idea.
Hmm.
So the word sustainable idea is actually being based on the idea of satya and ahimsa, as I've told in a
Yes.
book also. But this is an age-old idea coming from the Mahabharata and even before that.
Yes.
So in this idea, so the idea is nothing wrong. So what Amartya Sen's and his allies' problem is that firstly they have many problems with them, many layers of problems.
Hmm.
First layer is they equate dharma and religion. Religion is a sort of a social theory. Dharma is not a social theory. Dharma only says that it says you have to practice abnegation, you have to practice value, satya, and ahimsa. It doesn't
Hmm.
say that there is a kayama judgment day and go to heaven. No,
Hmm.
not that. Those theories are not very relevant to dharma.
Hmm.
And that's why you have so many different kind of schools, right? And each doesn't believe. So, for example, I see some pictures, photos behind you. I may not know them,
Hmm.
but doesn't matter, right? We
Hmm.
know that how we kind of being alive, whether you are his disciplines and my views are different, doesn't matter
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Second problem about the Sen is he is thinking that they are trying to create a world based on only sort of hegemony without
Hmm.
ethics. It doesn't happen so that. And
Hmm.
that's why if you see, we have kicked out ethics from
Hmm.
education. And we said that there's no need for ethics. Anyway, people are very good. Now the big problems are happening in the world because of ethics. There's a big subprime crisis that happened 2007. The entire world economy kind of went down.
Right.
That is because of too many greed and other things.
Hmm.
The same thing is happening now in America.
Hmm.
We can see how unethically things are happening in this
Yes.
particular case. Right?
Yes.
And all this they are now saying, okay, you have to bring ethics back. So before you were saying don't need religion in education, we have to separate it. Now you are saying, oh, we need the ethics back.
Yes.
So actually, the secular liberals, they are acknowledging that they have underestimated the idea of ethics, which is very critical
Yes.
to any sustainable society.
Yes.
That Amartya Sen again is missing.
Hmm.
And the third problem, even if you believe in him, his third problem is Amartya Sen is he is thinking this Western civilization, which is only in its present form, which happened only after Cold War, right? Before there was a huge struggles of nationalism and all this kind of thing. This is a very sustainable one. It is not at all. This civilization is only going on because it has using a lot of resources and that are taking away and they are going to the West. The moment the other parts of the world they will demand that kind of level, standard of living, the world may not have that kind of living. So you need some other, you can actually give some people money and they will keep quiet. But the moment you don't have so much money, people don't keep quiet, right? There will be more bitterness, there will be more struggle.
Yes.
So I'm saying that Amartya Sen is wrong so many ways. Then each one of them will take a thread away. Now I'm waiting for your, your guidance where to go.
Yeah, I'll get to economics a bit again later on because I'd like to discuss a bit of free market versus developmental economics, etc. So, sir, now could you give a small gist, basically the entire topic of the book, that in any situation, why would, this is for the people who have not read your book yet, why would not a majority without an LTSC be harmful, and why would a minority with an LTSC might be a dangerous thing?
So basically, the majority without LTSC. So the idea of my book assumes that generally man does not have violence in it very intrinsically.
Okay.
Man generally doesn't have any violence.
Okay.
But he can be made to do violence because a theory calls him to do violence.
Right.
Normally, people may not want to kill the nearest jamindar. So if you look at our books like Samurai's books, this Naxal movements and all this kind of. So when the Naxals are going to the North Bengal, so basically they are going to different places and they are saying that you have to go join the revolution. And the people are saying, okay, but you have to also see the interest of the other party, the Babu and Jamindar. So this kind of attitude was there. So that is kind of the idea of the people generally. So they don't want to go all too violent. But the moment you say them, this is the theory, this demand violence, they go all the way. So that is something that I believe a very fundamental Indic value, that we have Atman, Brahman inside us. We all are very inside we are very good. If you go to the Western views, they actually say very other way around. The Western idea, Christian idea is God is a transcendental entity. So God does not live here. God lives outside us. So generally we are kind of guided by Saturn, could be guided by Saturn. That's why we need to constantly seek out for it. And in India we say we need to seek out inside us because inside us the God resides. So there's a difference, right? And that difference is probably the reason. So now what I think that the moment you give the theory, people can go very violent. It doesn't matter whether minority or majority. So I have given an example also that my theory is not really my own exactly in a moment. Let's say, because Nassim Nicholas Taleb, he has basically he has also written that the intolerant could come from the minority only. So he has given the example of different kinds of food choices, where the minority could impose on the majority. Right? In India also we know that it actually happens. Right? The minority food choices impose on the majority, but not vice versa.
Yes.
And second thing is, of course, another one very radical organization that is banned now, Popular Front of India.
Yes.
They have a manifesto that was recovered in Bihar and that came out. And in this manifesto, and that is basically what you call LTSC organization. They wanted to basically win. They wanted to make the entire world in this dogma. Now, this organization is saying basically we don't need to be majority. We need to be more intolerant, more intolerant. That's how we are going to be. We don't need majority at all. So they are also acknowledging, right,
Yes.
that it has nothing to do with minority, but you have to be more and more intolerant, more and
Yes.
more devoted to theory.
Yes. Sir, this makes me wonder then, should everyone have an LTSC? If not having an LTSC means that you are left defenseless. Is LTSC good?
So I mean, in economics, we have a problem. We can't say everything is purely bad or purely evil. We all say sort of a trade-off kind of manner.
Yeah.
LTSC creates this sort of an image. So basically, if you look at human beings, why did you win this Homo sapiens against the Neanderthals? So it is said the Neanderthals, they did not have what is called the imagined reality. So they only can think about their clan to someone they know.
Right.
Now, Kausik and Nirajan, if we are Neanderthals, we could have not actually had this conversation because we did not know each other, right, before this kind of begin. So, but we Homo sapiens, we have this idea of the imagined reality. We can connect to different people without knowing them personally. Now, a problem is that's why basically we want. So, in a way, little bit of your identity is good. But then I would not say that's a very sustainable thing. What happens is LTSC, it helps you to win, it helps you make a political group, win the conflicts. But what happens, this is like greed. It grows over time, and eventually you die out of your greed, right? Like what is happening. Now, I would suggest the idea is actually the indica is of ahimsa, and this ahimsa idea is generally not understood very well. We think that ahimsa means you just sit down and you just whatever do you do, just don't do anything as a neutrality, passivity. That's not ahimsa. Ahimsa is active resistance to himsa. So it is possible that many of the times, and we see it all the time, we in the households and everything, we say something and later we repent, then why have we said that? So that time himsa is coming out of our own self. So we have to negate that. So that's a part of the story, and that is very clear. But many times the himsa is coming from someone else, right? If some tolabaj comes and 6 tola from me, so then definitely the himsa is coming from that person. It is not coming from me.
Yes.
I mean, I'm an old timer, so I have seen this movie Prohar by Nana Patkar. I don't know how new generation.
Yes.
But now they are basically this guy, right, who is a commando who doesn't lost this loses his feet, right?
Yes.
Lost his feet in operation, and then he comes back and this Tolabad and he kind of resists it. So this is the same idea. He is an ahimsa. He is a Kshatriya. He has in his Kshatriya this idea of warriors. I think his name is Peter or something. And then he was a Kshatriya and he wanted to resist the Tolabaj and other people, and he fought them, right?
Yes.
So basically he is doing exactly, actually he is more committed to ahimsa than we are. Actually, we are not committing any ahimsa by sitting inside because we are encouraging ahimsa. So ahimsa means it both way around, right? That's what the Rama and Krishna and these people have said. And if you look at the real life also, if you look at the invasions, foreign invasions happen in India over time. It is always happening, keeps on happening. In the time of Krishna, there is a foreign invader, Kal Yavana. He was killed by the Krishna and all the things. And then if you look to the historical things, in the Gupta Empire, so basically the Shakals, they are coming. I think it was the Hunas. The Huns are, is it Shakals or Huns? I think Huns are coming. So one of the Hun branches, they went to the Roman Empire. Then they destroyed the Roman Empire.
Okay.
The other branch was more powerful, and they came to India.
Okay.
And then how to resist them? They are a kind of very ferocious kind of people, very barbarians, right? And then how we have an empire in the Gupta dynasty. His name is Skandagupta. So Skandagupta decided that he will not sit here. So his capital were Patliputra and Ujjain. Both are sufficiently inland, and this fight was happening near Peshawar and this Afghan region, hundreds of miles. Right? That time, not in easy distance. So he spent 12 years of his life only in the border provinces fighting the Barbarians. Think about the horrible sacrifice. And that is what our Kshatriyas used to be taught. That you have to kind of be ahimsa by actually doing. So our Kshatriyas, they are taught that you have to first keep your inner self pure. That's why you have to do sadhana, tapasya, and introspection you have to learn. But second thing is you cannot sit idle. You cannot be like a Brahmin. You have to go ahead and fight them. whenever it requires it. And that's what the Gupta and this, it's not only one person, right? Countless people have done it.
Right.
I think Saradindu Bandyopadhyay, his stories, historical fictions, they are very kind of illuminating in this regard, how he has imagined the reality.
Okay.
So the point I'm trying to say that even without LTSC, you can fight them if you have the idea of ahimsa sufficiently practiced.
Right. So, are you saying then prevention of violence itself is the act of ahimsa? Ahimsa is not just sitting.
And this is what the Karl Popper says in my book, right? So that if you unlimited tolerance actually gives rise to intolerance.
Yes.
That's why you need to have intolerant to the intolerant.
Yeah, and Nassim Taleb's virtuous intolerant people. Few virtuous intolerant people. Yes.
Exactly.
So, sir, in this case, it seems to me that then the Varna system was a pretty genius move in the sense that the entire community does not need to believe in an LTSE to go around killing people. Let's have one section of the community who are for defense.
That is a very good idea. So, basically, what do we want? So, now there is a hue and cry against the caste system. Now, what do you want? Do we want everybody to get the same training from childhood and same person? Then what happens? We actually spend a lot of time in school without learning anything. So we do up to 18 years, we just finish the high school.
Yes.
Then you go to college, first 3-4 years, you are not sure whatever you're doing. Then you say, oh, we have to do something now, the engineering or whatever it is, graduation is over. Now let's take something I like, really like, or can do another 3-4 years and more.
Yeah.
So we spend like 20 years of our life just to skill ourselves and we don't know where to go.
Yes.
And because we don't know our inner aptitude, we don't have a very specialized training. And this is what the Germans, they also realize that there are different kinds of schooling they have. Now, they had actually, now it's kind of all crumbling down in the West. Now, the problem is in the Varna system, what we have done, we thought that, we don't want to create very uniformity. The liberals, they talk about something called diversity, right?
Right.
Now, diversity cannot happen if you give everybody same education, same background. Then you cannot have a gifted single learned Lata Mangeshkar.
Yeah.
Lata Mangeshkar happened because her father was devoted to music and trained her accordingly from the childhood. Right?
Yes.
And that's how it happened. Otherwise, we would have not had Lata Mangeshkar, right? We would have not had Sachin Tendulkar. Because Sachin Tendulkar happened because basically his brother actually helped him to get this extra training in cricket and all.
Yes.
So you have to have anything superior. You need to actually have an education from the child. In any profession.
Yes.
I'm giving some extreme example.
Yes.
But actually any profession it is required.
True.
Now, what is problematic is what I don't support is extreme inequality between different Varnas or different castes. That's not a fair. But at the same time, it is a very wonderful thing if different people, they start developing their capabilities in different dimensions. And there all these jatis, they live in harmony. Right. So that is the idea of the Hindu inclusiveness. We are not telling anyone who is coming to just you erase your history and you kind of start afresh. No.
Yes.
You become another jati and you try to implement, you depend your jati's rules and other things within your jati.
Yes.
But all these rules you try to implement Satya and Ahimsa.
Yes.
You make it more dharmic and stable.
Yes.
And that's how we join it. You bring it your specialization, whatever
yes.
that one. And you will create this civilization.
Yes.
So it is the Western nation-state model. This is not our model. Our model is a civilizational model, in which there are connections between different communities, but it's a loose collaboration. It's a very stable collaboration.
Right. Is there any way to get back to that in this political situation?
I think I'm not sufficient visionary enough to go back to that. But my experience has told me that one person's vision doesn't matter. It is the collective vision that matters. So the first thing that we have to actually realize, I think, in some sense, that this uniformation, this education, this is not good enough. Our education system is too much theoretical, and it is not giving people enough skills. It is taking away. It's good for people like me who just do some lectures and that kind of things, but that's not the ideal way of education. Right. Ideal of education is the guru and the shishya. They have to be engaged in a more emotional connection. Right. That actually I'm missing nowadays. Yes. I think that is something we have to change in direction. Yes. But I'm definitely it will take 2-3 generations to can go that direction. It's not in this generation we are going to see that.
Yes. Sir, don't you think that in this democratic nation states setting, it's the political parties who have become the varnas or the jatis of a family, replacing the family, and also all the political parties have an LTSC. Is that a good thing or bad thing?
Unfortunately, this democratic system, when we say, we kind of assume that this is there is no everything else is bad. This is a very limited view. There are many problems with the democracy. First of all, to run these political parties, you need money. Now this electoral bond and other things are coming on. But tell me, can any organization be run without money? Can my organization be run without money? Can your organization be run without money? No organization can be run without money. And who will give you really money? Really, anyone giving you significant money generally expects something in back. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So in some sense, democracy sort of encourages corruption. Right?
Yes, it's
I mean,
inherently
it's
incentivizing corruption.
It incentivizes corruption, and without corruption, it cannot be done.
Yeah.
So the political parties have to be run, right?
Yes.
So in some ways, it's a matter of now basically which political party is doing a lot of corruption,
Right.
they're doing less of corruption. That's sort of the thing we are.
Yes.
Now, if you look at our system, in Indian system, so basically the king, he was not that powerful.
Okay.
In our India, the social laws are with the jatis. The king cannot go and interfere. If
Yeah.
it is a family thing, divorce thing, courts, and other thing, this is all their inside, right? Crimes and everything the jatis will take care of.
Yeah,
And
it's
they
sort
have
of an
their
autopilot
rules
society.
and their crime rates are amazingly low in India. This is not me saying. There is a very famous missionary, a French missionary, Abbe Dubois. He came to India 19th century, and he was very respected by the Christians, missionaries, and also East India Company. And he wrote actually that we have basically this jati system is a very good thing for India, and because it actually minimizes corruption and minimizes crimes and other.
Yes.
And then what happened that that's one point. Second point is this jati system. What it does, it guarantees everybody sort of employment, right? Natural employment.
Yes.
You don't need to really go around and which job you'll do.
Yes.
So this is actually a good thing for a lot of people.
Right.
They have a lot of certainty. They can be productive.
Yes.
Third point is there is also a lot of struggle in this present day world that which norms will practice, and then there's a lot of what is happening in the metros. There are a lot of young men and women. They are independent. They are trying to do everything in their own way. Now, of course, anything cannot be done own way very easy.
Yeah.
It has to be learned. So they are making mistakes, and what is happening in the next generation? They are suffering. They are not getting proper.
They are reinventing the wheel and trying to solve problems which were already solved thousands of years back in Hinduism.
Or they are trying to do something new, but then that cannot be done in one generation. And what is happening that they cannot create the generation. They cannot create their children the same kind of environment. It's only money cannot make only with the money you cannot make a children educated, right? You need to give them socialization, social skills. You need to give them appreciation for arts, discipline. All these things are not coming. So the next generation, this has happened pathetically in the West. Successively, the generation that deteriorated, right? They cannot even growing up. For them, rearing up a child is a very difficult thing. They don't have that kind of skills. Most of them. And now in India, we are going also that path, which was not there in a very jati-based system. So that's one thing. The second thing is in Indian kings. So that's one thing. Second thing is Indian kings. They are more like Roberts. They are more like wanted to have a legacy. It is because of the reason that in India, the idea of the LTSC by growing empire was not there. The idea was the dharma vijay. You have to show that you have done more to the dharma. So that was the values. And this is what you have, if you see the Wadiyar dynasty, Mysore, right? So
they donated the land for IISC.
IISC land, then this Krishna Sagar Dam, and this Bangalore was the first city with electric light. So there are so many things. I was speaking to someone on this dynasty like a week ago or something, and he was saying that this Bangalore, we say, because of, but this is Bangalore is a big success for India, but it is basically the vision of this dynasty that has happened. And if you go to the Maharaja of Baroda, right? Prince State Aurobindo Ghosh, educator, right, for their long time. They are also same thing. They made 100% literacy, very good colleges and other things. So because these places, they are more like they are not very colonial kings. They are coming up with their own traditions and other things. The north, what happened? Just basically most of the kings were like puppets of the British. So they are not so much many of the kings, they are not very good, another thing. But in the south, the kings are coming up from their own thing. But even in West Bengal, Coachbihar king, Coachbihar was a very prosperous place.
Yes.
And you have very big, good colleges, right? Bharampur had a very good college and all these things they have done. Now all these things are now gone, right? We can see the state of the affairs.
Yes.
With the democracy.
Sir, then is there a problem with jati in the sense that it's going to be the opposite of meritocracy, because you will get the job to, let's say, make baskets just because your father also made a basket?
So the point is merit, of course. There are two things here. One is, of course, merit is something that is not ignorable. But merit does not come only from your innate. It also comes from the training and other things.
Yes.
So jatis were not very inflexible. So when we were very strong, jatis were very flexible. So it happened that many of the people who are good, talented, they used to be actually adopted by suitable jati. So one last example, what happened is Ambedkarji. Ambedkarji, we know he was born in a Mahar family, right? But his actually name is Ambe Babadekar. But then what happened? He was a teacher. His name was Ambedkar. He was a Brahmin. But he actually supported Ambedkar from the very young age and kind of thing. And that was not he has done a very something remarkable. That was the tradition in many places. By Dharampal. Dharampal was actually a Gandhian historian.
Yes.
Wife was a British, and he kind of went to the Imperial Library in London, and he met with. So one of these volumes, it contains basically education in India. It's called the
Beautiful Tree. Yes.
Beautiful Tree, right? Yeah, third volume, I think.
Yes.
Now this Beautiful Tree, what happened? He has shown so basically the little statistics of different Indian learning systems, and he has shown that actually the non-Brahmins are majority of the students.
Yes.
And they have to be done by the they have to be taught by the Brahmins.
Yes.
So basically, I'm not saying that all Brahmins are good and all these things.
Right, of course.
I'm trying to say that there's a lot of harmony and reciprocity in the society. Even that was present in a colonial times. But nowadays, what happened? The British they actually robbed our history from us, and they have included their history.
Yes.
So we kind of going by their narrative of caste.
Yes.
And we are actually creating problems.
Yes. Like any history book I read, even from Nihar Ranjan Rai to anyone, both sides of political aisles, they always mention that it was sort of an autopilot society in the ancient times, and it did not really matter who the king was. If at all there was a battle going on, it was between the kings in some field on a weekend. They fight and go home. Nothing changes in the lives of the people. It's not like there's a genocide of them or war crimes happen.
So there is an agreement among the kings that they want to have, that is Dharma Vichar. It actually, he will attend that. Only in the future subjects, they also said that this guy is better than that in terms of Dharma. So that because of that concept, nobody used to torture the subject.
Yes.
That was an alien concept for us. So there are many wars, and there are many times. So I will give you here is a very good example. Chera, Chola, Pandya. These are the dynasties in South South India. And these dynasties were 2000 years or more than that. If you go to Mahabharata, these dynasties are mentioned.
Yes.
Mahabharata is like 500 BC, right? And these are 1500 BC they are there.
Yes.
So what happened? There are fights are going on, Chela and Chola, long war, hundreds of years of war. But suppose Cholas are winning, then they will not completely remove Chera. They will diminish his authority and all these kind of things. They might remove the king and install his brother or his cousin, but they will not remove completely. So in a sense, they are also not trying to go because they didn't have any LTSC. They are not trying to make it like a linear way of capturing. They just want to assert their superiority and that's it. But in a very more stable way.
Yes. And that is why Arthashastra makes it crystal clear that if you annex a kingdom, your first job is to learn the customs of that place. You in fact join them in procession.
And basically there are many laws are there, but the king was not does not have much authority on the laws. Laws will come from the local domain, local laws.
Ground up.
Then there are some shrutis which are a little bigger but still local. And there are some shrutis like dharma and these are related to rituals.
Yes.
So the king is currently coming on some part of taxation but not too much.
Yes. So, sir, since Dharampal Have you read the complete book? I have only read the introduction so far. I have bought it recently. I have not read it completely. I want to ask you something about.
I've read these 5 volumes here.
Oh wow!
Hmm.
I recently bought the 5 volumes and I've just read the introductions to the 5 volumes. So the data that Dharampal points out, is it for the entire country or just some village in South India?
Everywhere data was not available. So
Okay.
what Dharampal has done, he has sources of British sources only.
Yes.
He did not have any Indian sources.
Right.
So that's what it makes it more authentic.
Yes.
And that's why he has only, so it is not everything, it is mostly on the Madras presidency.
Okay.
It was mostly in the northern part, southern part of the Andhra Pradesh, a large part of Tamil Nadu, and some maybe a few parts in the Karnataka.
Yeah.
So that's the data he had available.
Yeah.
Now many of the cases, what happened? These places were more independent. But what happens? Mostly it was the rule of the Muslim rules, and a lot of the sovereign structure actually ended.
Right.
So education was very sparse
Right.
in some sense.
So this idea that we have always heard that Brahmins kept everyone uneducated, which is being countered by Dharampal, and on the other hand, Jordan Peterson, whom you have also quoted multiple times in the book. I guess you have respect for Jordan Peterson.
I have generally respect for him,
Yes.
but I don't agree with all his views.
So Jordan Peterson is now propagating this new idea that even I have massive respect for him, but he's now propagating the idea that missionary conversions was the reason for the literacy of the entire world. Before that, everyone was illiterate. What do you think of that?
So here the problem is Jordan Peterson. There are two issues here. One is Jordan Peterson is basically his views on Indic civilization is extremely poor. It is like almost even modern scholars, even Marxists, they'll sort of not agree a lot of the time. It is like almost like you're going to the beginning of the 20th century kind of views.
Yes. Yes.
Second problem is this, if you look at the facts. The facts, if you look at basically England, so this there's a book on this how this literacy in England has gone up, and it only happened in the 18th century. So before, when the literacy in England was less than 10%, when Oxford was founded. But if you look at India, if you look at this Harappan civilization, there are so many coins with so many basically different scripts are written, right? Basically, or maybe this may be so this shows a lot of people can read and write. In Lothal, there's a banner kind of thing that was discovered.
Yes.
Was a port kind of thing,
Yes.
which is very big parts. It looks like an hoarding kind of thing for guiding people.
Yes.
Now, unless you have mass literacy, this kind of hoarding cannot exist. Right?
Yes.
And then if you look, go to this Indian tradition. So Indian tradition is of course not so much based on literacy in the sense, but then our idea was everybody has to know some kind of a kala, art.
Okay.
So that's how you beautify your life. So the obsession with literacy, that is also a little problematic. So someone can read and write books, but only parrots lines from Communist Manifesto and thinks them gospel too. And I know people like that who are very educated, but we say that I don't read other books because they are all sort of agenda driven. Of course,
Yes.
these communist books are not agenda driven. They
Yes.
are very pure
Yes.
scholarships. And then they kind of so what is the point of the literacy then?
Right.
So at the end of the day, you need to balance person. And we kind of recognize the balance comes through your practice of arts. So this 64 kalas, right, arts, they were very common. And it was customary for us that we need to know one or two arts at least, so that otherwise your life is dry. And dry life cannot do any good.
So was then the illiteracy that we blame on Brahmins was in fact created by Islamic invaders in North India, Eastern India?
So of course there is a direct correlation we can see, because what happens that Islamic invaders who came, they are not interested in supporting the places of learning. In a matter of fact, what they thought that whatever is outside their book is sort of like ignorance, right? I mean,
Yes, Jahiliyat.
medieval kind of view, but this is what theory does.
Right.
And then we know this story of Nalanda, how sad it was, right?
Yes.
And how all the It was Walanda, interestingly, was a very much a Buddhist. Most of the people there
Yes.
was Buddhist, right?
Hmm.
And most of the things are taught also Buddhist because
Hmm.
Buddhist used to control most of the
Yes.
academies that time, right?
Yes.
Like if you go to the modern day universities,
Hmm.
most of them are liberals, right? They
Hmm.
are not like. But what happened? But these are sponsored by the same kings.
Yes.
So when this Ikhtiaruddin bin Bakhtiyar Khalji he sacked Nalanda,
Hmm.
actually Sena's this Lakshman Sen, right? He
Hmm.
was the king, and
Yes.
he used to patronize.
Yes.
Now, but he because he wanted to make it, and there are other universities like Odantapuri,
Hmm.
Vikramshila.
Yes.
So there's a book by Sahana Singh
Okay.
on this ancient Indian heritage, and she had
Okay.
beautifully described everything. And she knows Bengali very well also. But
I see.
she has said that the East India was more advanced at that time than any other part
Oh, I see.
at
I
that
see.
time.
Okay.
Now, what happened is when the sackings happened, all the universities faded away, and there is no sponsorship for universities and other things.
Yes.
That is number one.
Hmm.
Second thing is, of course, see, literacy in some sense is little bit of a luxury
Of
in a
course.
society where jobs are more
Right.
skill driven.
Yes.
So the moment there is a lot of taxation happens. So in the Hindu kings, the highest taxation is generally taxation is 1/6,
Hmm.
16%.
Yes.
And that's all so there's a book by there are different books that actually mention it. One is of course R.C. Majumdar's volumes are there,
Yes.
History and Culture of Indian People. And there is also another book by this Marathi scholar. Yeah, I'll just get his name in a moment. So he has also written the statecraft in India.
Okay.
And then here also he mentioned it is mostly 1/6. Sometimes it could be 1/4
Yes.
also.
Yes.
But then, if you look at the, but it is before the Shivaji, of course. Shivaji had to
Okay.
have much more taxes, but there's a reason for that.
Okay.
But now, what happens? Islamic taxations were much more higher. So the minimal taxation was 1/3, and in Aladdin Khilji and other times it was half. And
Hmm.
there are taxes like jizya and other things on
Yes.
the based on for not being Muslim.
Hmm.
So all these taxations actually made people very weak, yeah, very kind of poor. Right? In fact,
Yes.
Aladdin Khilji has a theory that make people poor so that they don't actually have not the means to revolt against the against the kind of the
Genius.
same theory actually Stalin also had, you know.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, yes, Eddie Hoffer has a book on mass movements. He mentions that
Huh?
mass movements are never done by the poorest, even though they might suffer the
Yes.
most, even though they might be the most
Mm.
vulnerable.
Middle
Mass,
class intellectuals.
yeah,
They are
mass
all
movement.
led by the middle class intellectuals.
Yes, especially when you have something to lose, then you start thinking about these things at least.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
Uh, what do you think of privilege? Here's Vivek Ramaswamy saying that growing up in a family with two parents is the biggest privilege in the world. But the commies are saying something else is privilege.
so the problem is what you have. So
Hmm.
in Bengali, you have a saying: as long as you have the tooth, you
Hmm.
don't realize how important it is. The moment the tooth is gone, then you know the real value of it,
Yes.
right? So the family system. See, I'll tell you one thing: why in the West so many people, right? Indian population of the people from India are very less, right? I mean, percentage wise,
Yes.
in Britain, in America.
Yes.
America, it is not even 3 million.
Hmm.
I mean, 30 lakhs. When the population is 30, it is less 1% of the nation's
Yes.
population.
Hmm.
But why so many top people are from India,
Hmm.
right? Even in politics, Rishi Sunak in
Hmm.
UK, he has
Hmm.
become the prime minister,
Hmm.
right? Again, of course, in technical fields and everything,
Hmm.
there's a predominance of the Indians.
Yes.
So one very simple way I can see that the Western society, because their family structure is breaking,
Hmm.
they cannot raise the kids
Yes.
with the kind of human capital. Human
Hmm.
capital is not done because you send your kids to international schools. It has to come from the family. He has to infuse with some
Yes.
discipline. He has
Hmm.
to respect. He
Hmm.
has to be a behavior. All these things are very pillars, and
Yes.
they come out in multiple ways.
Yes.
Now, on the moment you kill the family, this thing will go down. Now, what is problematic is that in academia nowadays, what is happening is that they like a kind of a scholarship where the introduction is to be same, the conclusion has to be same,
Hmm.
middle whatever you can do. Now, in the conclusion, it says you cannot say that family is good.
Hmm.
You cannot say that. liberalism is bad. Now, if the conclusion is like that, whatever you cannot really do any serious scholarship.
Yes.
Because you really do serious scholarship, you have to destroy the previous views, and then the conclusion will come differently.
Yes.
That's why studies in academia may not say that,
Hmm.
but I can see direct empirically there is a lot of evidence
Yes.
that family structure actually has that.
Yes.
That's why in America the biggest force goes to the immigrants. Technical
Of course.
point always, right? Because
Yes.
they cannot raise children that rate.
Hmm.
It's pretty good, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? I
Yes.
would say.
Yes. Now, the leftist counter argument to the idea of so many NRIs being successful is that they are all mainly upper caste or mostly Brahmins, and they have some mysterious privilege. Now, what do you think is going on there? Did they leave the country, or did their parents who are also good in studies leave the country because of reservation here, or is there something extra regarding academic rigor in Brahmin families exactly?
No, you see, there's a lot of issues. I mean, I don't really personally, before I could be misconstrued, and so let me just first say that. I mean, reservation per se itself may not be a bad idea altogether. There may be a lot of merit in giving people a lot of, because what happened, like a lot of our jatis, they suffered because the formal education system came. And the people who are very on the top of the, who are very comfortable with taking the formal education, they prospered. And the other jatis, they lagged behind. Some tribes were called criminal tribes by the British, some jatis. So there's a lot of issues. Now, what form and then how it is going, rules, there might be some micro details where we can have a lot of nuances and discussion. So I'm not saying it's altogether bad. But the point is that the idea of this privilege, it is also very little bit of a struggle. Because what happens, a lot of people in these very positions, it is not really very easy to go to the job. It's not really you and I want to really go to that job where everything is very stressful and things like that. A lot of the people, they are like want a quieter kind of life, and they are happy with that, right? So it is going because these people, they actually can take that kind of responsibility, or train that way, and all this kind of things. So someone is successful, calling them privilege, that is not actually a very good idea of incentivizing success in society.
Exactly.
It actually sort of destroys success in society.
Yes, because you're telling everyone that you don't have privilege, now your life is gone. So there's no point in working hard.
And it is always good for anyone to blame others.
Yes.
So naturally, people don't learn that you have to do something better or something great with their life.
Yes.
That's the kind.
Yes. This brings to mind that hingsa in Bengali it means jealousy, whereas in other Indic languages it means violence. What do you think is going on there? Did we mean himsa to mean jealousy or violence, or did Bengalis translate jealousy as violence?
No, himsa actually, what happens, there's another word actually in classical Bengali. Irsha used to mean
jealousy.
It is jealousy as long as it's in mind.
Okay.
Now, whenever you actually do something violent,
I see.
It is an outside expression of the Irsha inside you.
Right.
So that's how it kind of translated.
Yes. What are your thoughts on reparations? Do Hindus deserve reparations for paying so much jizya?
I mean, these are all outside the book in a way, but I will tell something. But basically, I don't believe in correcting the historical wrong. That way, you can go any direction anyway.
Yes.
I mean, that is not a very good thing, I would say.
Yes.
Historical wrong has to be acknowledged. That satta has to come out. That this has happened. That's it.
Yes.
Now, once the satta is out and people acknowledge this is a truth, I'm happy with that.
Right.
Now, if they say that jizya is wrong, it should have not done. But by the way, that's not what I read. I read many different kinds of literature, and when I read people in Bangladesh and other people, they don't necessarily say jizya was wrong. They say, well, it was all right.
Yes.
Because Hindus, they are not joining army or something like that. That's why you have to give them tax. So, if we acknowledge this is bad, I think good enough. I don't go for reparation. That I think promotes himself in the longer run.
Yes. Do you think you have very interestingly critiqued the idea that of symmetry of religions, that all religions are equal or all cultures are equal? Now, since actually people in the West have probably realized that actually their religion might have problems, and therefore they stopped teaching religion in their schools, and therefore they exported that idea and therefore convinced us that therefore your religion is also equally bad and you also should not teach religion in schools. On the other hand, Amartya Sen is advocating for teaching Christianity in schools, or only having Christian schools in England. But also, you have explained that America, in fact, does not have an LTSC, even though they are a Christian population. What's going on here?
So many things to say. Firstly, if you look at the constitutional debates, so in the constitutional debates on Article 28, which actually talks about separation of religion from education. So Ambedkar ji, he actually have quoted him in detail in Ambedkar ji, and he actually named two religions. He said that some of our religions, he said to Abrahamic religions, he said that they actually are not very good. They teach not good behavior to others.
Yes.
That's what sort of he wrote. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course. And that's why he said, and there are other two reasons he gave, and he said that's why we have to keep it outside this. Now, he did not say anything against dharmic religion. And if you look at this Gandhiji or Rabindranath, they are this Rabindranath's Santiniketan, Brahmacharya Ashram, right? It was really, I would say, intertwined with the idea of dharma and the idea of Brahmacharya, which are like our ritualistic concept of making people character. So that's why it was always in our brain. Now, what happened when this constitution was formed? Most of our people, we wanted to have a very quick solution. The quick solution was whatever the British is giving us, let's take it, we'll settle it later. Now, what happened that British had mostly this, our constitution, 80 to 90%, 80% variations. It was actually based on 1935's, it's called the Governance of India, Governance of India Act. Governance of India Act 1935 was a act that was done, right?
Yes.
Basically, the part that was done, written by an IS officer. His name is Rao Sahib. His name is Benegal Rao. Sorry, Benegal Narsim Rao.
Okay.
BN Rao. Narsim Rao was the Rao Sahib. BN Rao. He was the guy person ISIS officer that time. ISIS officer who actually wrote this act. Now, he was actually installed in 1946 to come and started writing for Indian Constitution.
Yes.
And he basically, whatever was written in the Government of India Act 1935, more or less it was kept. So there are a few small changes was done. So in India, 1935 Act, the election used to be based on a community. So there the Hindus will send their own electorates, Muslims will send their electorate, and the native kings will send their representatives. That was scrapped, and once kind of same electorate was kind of done. But otherwise, it was kind of similar. And then Gandhiji talked about panchayat. So panchayat was kind of put in a very token kind of way, not very deep. But otherwise, not most things are not different. And of course, the laws that time was different. Like Hindus, we used to go by Hindu laws, and Muslims, at least Ashrafi Muslims, they used to go by the Muslim laws. So basically, what happened? They actually kept it like that, and they just wrote that uniform law has to be done at Article 44 someday. That's sort of like that. So we have done a very savvy. I'm saying that we have not addressed the civilization and issues very well. Now, what Amartya Sen is saying, he's sort of, I think what Amartya Sen is that, of course, he's an old man. He's an old man. But more than that, he's a very, I think he's in a way, he's a very colonized person. People like America, they call him Marty. They don't know, they can't say Amartya. So they call him Marty, and maybe he's more comfortable with his Martiness than his Amartya-ness in a way. So what he says about this Christian schools and Hindu schools, this is sort of like colonial legacy, like the British would see that way. And our Christian convent schools, they are good. And what you Hindus, what you can do, we don't understand you. Sort of like that. So it should be kind of not good. So that kind of understanding is getting reflected when he says that, convent schools are all right, but Hindu schools is not very comfortable. But Indian Constitution does not allow per se Hindu schools. In Article 30, we kind of.
No, I mean, he meant that in England, people should only go to Christian schools. In England, you will destroy the society if you have a Sikh school, a Hindu school. But that's not what he's saying for India.
So England actually is a Christian state,
Hmm.
and they are actually this England flag. If you see the crosses, right?
Yes.
These are actually because it's a Christian state. They are replicating of the Christian values
Yes.
in the cross.
Yes.
And we have seen this coronation ceremony of
Yes.
the Prince King Charles, right?
Yes.
There it was actually he has taken mandate from the bishops and all these
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
things, and it is constitutionally mandated there to do a prayer, but that prayer 51% has to be from the Christians. That's what the mandate.
Hmm.
But I heard from my friends there that it is not very much practiced. It has eventually actually become as more secular.
Hmm.
Christian values are not much there.
Hmm.
That same is sort of true in America also.
Hmm.
So basically, what is happening that Christianity is sort of receding in entire West.
Yes.
Even in America, so many missionaries come to India. I met once or twice. I meet missionaries
Hmm.
came from India, America.
Hmm.
They tried to proselytize me,
Hmm.
but I was talking to them. But they are not actually white men. They are like Chinese or Koreans. So
I see.
these Chinese and Koreans, they're immigrants. They go and they sort of acquire a little bit of their prestige through making a Christian missionary or
I
something like that
see.
in the white society.
I
But
see.
whites, they are not a moral more. They are losing their Christianity. It is
Hmm.
not inspiring them great.
Hmm.
So what is happening? I've given the Pew survey or something, and they are basically people are saying they're
Yes.
comfortable with
Yes. Yes.
anyone, right? And so basically, most of the Americans they are sort. I mean, most of Europe definitely it is true in Europe. Most of the Europeans they have gotten rid of their Christian idea,
Except Hungary
so,
and Poland.
and they cannot survive this onslaught on religion. So they are
Hmm.
all living the religion like anything.
Yes.
But then America, it was more religious, of course,
Hmm.
compared to the Europe.
Yes.
But still, in America, also religion is fading. I would say
Yes.
people are getting leaving Christianity, and
Yes.
then churches are getting
Yes.
closed and all. So what I was saying that they are. So I mean, I have spoken to the many Christians in America. And they are sort of Christianity looks at a very heritage kind of thing, tradition.
Cultural
They
heritage.
don't see it as LTSC to conquer the world, not that.
Hmm.
You might see in the other countries, third world countries, you might see like that.
Hmm.
But they see it's their tradition, they derive their values from that,
Hmm.
and which I respect them. And then that's how they see this Christianity.
Hmm.
So they are, even though they are the Christians, they don't have any LTSC person. And if
Right.
you look at
Exactly.
the Orthodox Christians like this Eastern Europe, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, and
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
this, they have all own churches, Ukrainian Orthodox,
Hmm.
all these churches they are not very evangelical. It is like their own culture. Even if I say I want to be Greek Orthodox, they don't allow.
Hmm.
There's an American famous comedy it's called Seinfeld,
Hmm.
and one of the episodes, one funny character is that called George, and
Hmm.
he wanted to be Latvian Orthodox Christian because
Okay.
he wanted to be someone or something like
Hmm.
that, and the Padri was not at all very interested to convert him.
Hmm.
So he had to pay a lot of them, say, and he was not still with.
Hmm.
That's kind of
Hmm.
so. I'm saying that you're talking about these whites and other thing, but I'm saying that Christianity in the West it is becoming very very weak, and which is why they actually this Pope he is actually an Argentinian. He's the first guy who is actually outside the European milieu
Yes.
or something like that,
Was.
right? Because in Europe, Christianity is so much in crisis
Hmm.
that they don't do any good. So they
Yes.
wanted to now the Christianity is strong, Catholicism at least is strong among the Latin Americans, and of
Hmm.
course it wants to grow in the other
Yes.
countries like in Asia and Africa.
Yes.
So now, yeah, so that's why they make the Pope from an Argentinian, South American person.
Yes. So, if some Christians are very much in favor of evangelization, proselytization, some Christians are opposed to us, don't even do proselytization. In fact, don't even want you to convert to their religion. On the other
Orthodox
hand,
churches, yes.
yes. On the other hand, America's Christianity is fading away now, and they don't have an LTSC. But also, Christianity was very strong in America up until few years back. Even then, do you think back then? Do you think they had an LTSC? Ever since the
So
USS
the
state
lot of
was
LTC
formed.
is still there. The Baptists and other these churches,
Hmm.
Baptists, Pentecostals. So if you go to their doctrines, dogmas,
Right.
some of them are very, very LTC. They used to, I mean, 1 or 2 decades ago, They used to say that when Hindus they celebrate Holi or Diwali, they are doing devil's worship. This
Yes.
kind of language was also not very uncommon 2 decades
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
But now what is happening that their language cannot survive
Hmm.
without the zealotry. You need zealots, right? Who will
Hmm.
go and then try to really evangelize, who will dedicate themselves.
Hmm.
That is very much missing.
Hmm.
So only zealot people they have is among the Mormons. Mormons are very different kind of church. I mean, they
Hmm.
don't touch alcohol. I mean, they don't do a lot of things.
Yes.
So but their target is not so much Asia. They are actually trying to their itself in America itself.
Yes. So, what is killing their LTSC? Why don't they have an LTSC? Is it because of
Because
their economics?
no, it is because of the LTSs need success. The
Okay.
problem is LTSs they expect always to grow.
Hmm.
The moment the growth is stopped,
Hmm.
then they are in a panic mode. Then what is happening and they can't sustain their narrative.
Hmm.
So as long as exchange is growing all over, it was nice.
Hmm.
But then a lot of people in Europe they left the church and churches as I mean I think in for
Right.
example if you look at Netherlands,
Hmm.
55% of people call themselves atheists.
Yes.
So they don't believe any string of Christianity.
Hmm.
So you see the kind of counter movement is so high, right? And same is true for Great Britain and many other very similar things are true for
Yes.
Great Britain and other places.
Yes.
So because they are not getting success, it is getting killed. I mean, you see why people are so much. I mean, why Muslims in
Hmm.
India? I mean, a lot of some of the Muslims in India, maybe a lot of them,
Hmm.
they are so much against Ram Mandir for a long time.
Hmm.
So the idea was not exactly basically that it's not about one mosque, right?
Hmm.
So the idea is this they have an LTSC that it has to grow, right?
Right.
Allah's religion sort of has to grow. That's the
Yes.
LTSC, right? And
Yes.
then the moment you cannot do that, I mean, then this is a problem, right? And that's what this is what is
Hmm.
this is
Right.
what kills it. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm saying that many Muslims actually they welcomed also
Hmm.
Ram Mandir and other things because they actually got rid of their LTSC.
Yes. And how to keep people in allow people to have their religion but not follow their LTSC if the religion is based in LTSC like the Europe has managed to do it, what would be the way
So
to do it
there
in
is
India?
so I don't know. There is no rocket prescription, but the idea is basically you have to make the religion more spiritual, more meaningful,
Hmm.
introspective. Now I don't know whether it is always very possible. So that is also a very big story, but
Hmm.
it might be possible. So I think one person who has addressed this in Ayan Hirsi Ali.
Hmm.
Ayan Hirsi Ali is a book. She's a Somalian ex-Muslim
Yes.
ready. And she tried to say that there are two kinds of Muslims. One is
Hmm.
called Makkah Muslims who are very ritual based,
Hmm.
and then other kind of Muslims who are called Medina Muslims who are more political. They
Yes.
don't care about ritualism, but more about what I call LTC. So he's saying these Makkah Muslims can be done, you can change that. So I think commendable effort has been done by MBS, Mohammed bin Salman,
Yes.
the prince in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
So what he's trying to say that one way you can make it LTSC, you make the theory very weak. You
Hmm.
make the theory no theory at all. So I think
Right.
in some sense he's trying to do that. He said that hadith that cannot be trusted too much because it came like hundreds of years after the death of Prophet Muhammad.
Hmm.
You can only look at the Quran. Now you see, if you do not have the hadiths,
Hmm.
hadiths are basically the authentic compilation of the Prophet's
Okay.
life. Now each Quranic revelation has a history, how it came from it can be known from the
Hmm.
hadith, right?
Hmm.
And there are two hadiths that is very, hadith is basically singular word,
Okay.
plural is ahadith.
Acha.
So basically there are two hadith, two collections. One is called Sahih Bukhari, one is called Sahih Muslim, and
Okay.
they are very famous.
Hmm.
And someone who knows Quran, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim is
Hmm.
called an Hafiz.
Acha.
So that's basically he knows these three things.
Hmm.
Now these if you disconnect basically the Quran from this hadith,
Hmm.
then any Quranic verse can be interpreted in any way.
Hmm.
So you can look at your inner experience and you can interpret anyway.
Hmm.
So that's what I think Mohammed bin Salman is trying to do.
Hmm.
So he is trying to kill those political ideas and he's allowing people to come to Makkah, Medina at least. I mean, Makkah, I don't know what probably happen, but Medina actually non-Muslims, our minister,
Smriti Rani.
Dirani, right? She went there. And then that actually shows that basically we want to make them as culture kind of thing, but we don't want to drag on to that. We want to go to the modernity, right? And a lot of things have been given, a lot of rights. Before in Saudi Arabia, there's no wine, there was no movies. There's no driving license for women, right? So all
Yes.
these things are slowly being withdrawn away. So
Hmm.
I think he's doing a lot of good things to make the LTSC of
Hmm.
Islam obsolete. Now,
Hmm.
how far he'll be successful, that only history will say. I mean, future will say.
Yes.
Now, problem is um, a lot of the time there's a backlash comes.
Hmm.
In Islam, there's no dearth of information.
Hmm.
It happened one after another. In the book of in the heretic, Harshi Ali, she
Hmm.
mentioned it.
Hmm.
But the problem is a lot of the time reforms happen, but then again go back to the past.
Right.
And so if you look at, for example, Afghanistan or Iran, right,
Hmm.
50 years ago, they're like almost like Western countries. It will look like that.
Yes.
Iran was a completely Western
Right.
country. And right now it has gone back again in
Hmm.
a way, right?
Hmm.
So that why it happened, because their inspiration is that book and very rigid theory.
Hmm.
Now he's trying to disconnect it, and now we have to see how it peters out.
Hmm.
Uh,
Even Sir
so in
Syed
a
Ahmed
way,
Khan's idea was that only, that let's get back, but learn English, but let's get back to the old ideas.
whose name have you mentioned?
Sir Syed Ahmed Khan.
Ahmed Khan, yeah. So Ahmed Khan was, I would say that he said that, he said that we have to use English as a tool kind
Hmm.
of thing. He's a very
Yes.
clever person. Actually, there's a very
Yes.
fine book on him, on Bengali. I think there's no good English book on English.
I see.
This book is written by Rudra Pratap Chattopadhyay.
Okay.
Uh, I think the name is, I think, Ahmed Khan. I don't remember the name,
Okay.
but it was a very. I mean, Rudrapada Chattopadhyay has very good books. He has a book Navurupe Dirozio.
I see.
Then he had a book Navurupe Titumir.
I
And
see.
then yeah, he has. I think he has a fantastic book. I think he's a very underrated Indian writer, Bengali writer. I
I
think
see.
you should make some series on him. I could
I see.
help you with some things on that.
Okay.
Um, Now he has written a book. So basically, he was a very pragmatic man. So
Hmm.
in the time of Sepoy mutiny, what happens? Most of the Muslims,
Hmm.
they actually said, well, now the British are gambling. Let's celebrate.
Hmm.
Let's have our own caliphate or something
Hmm.
like that. Now he was not very excited.
Hmm.
He actually very understood. He has a very practical wisdom. He knew that these people, they are very kind of bunch of people who are coming together without any good system.
Hmm.
And he knew that British has a lot of system in place.
Hmm.
And though he actually sided, sort of kept himself with the British in a way.
Yes.
And that's why he became very close to the British after
Yes.
the British quelled the
Hmm.
rebellion, right?
Hmm.
And then he kind of tried to. Then the British, after the rebellion is over, initially they were with the Hindus, because they
Yes.
thought the Muslims were like rebellious, so let's put down the Muslims. But
Yes.
after a while, what he tried to thought that the British, they thought, well, but the Hindus are already majority. So
Yes.
if you kind of put them, the Muslims will be very weak and then eventually side with the Hindus.
Hmm.
So we will not be able to divide and rule the society.
Yes.
So they tried to play the game other way now.
Hmm.
And then in that mission, actually, the Syed Ahmed Khan was a very good, useful instrument in a way.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
it is also good for the Ahmed Khan also, because his vision was that basically the Muslims, they have to develop capabilities.
Hmm.
So most of the educated people are from the Hindus.
Hmm.
And Ahmed Khan understood that these ashrafs, they are actually missing the modern education.
Hmm.
So he did not see actually modernity. I mean, this is again a topic. How do you see modernity?
Hmm.
Is it a tool or is it some different purpose of life?
Hmm.
So what happened? Many of the Hindus, they saw it both ways.
Hmm.
So if you look at Ram Mohan Roy, he saw it as an instrument
Hmm.
that we need to know their knowledge.
Hmm.
But he also saw that, of course, but he still, I think, in a way, Ram Mohan was very true with our idea of Hindu, that idea of Brahman and other ideas. He was
Hmm.
very true in his own, as much as he understood it
Hmm.
on this thing. But then, but for Syed Ahmed Khan, it was not about any taking over the European idea at all.
Hmm.
It was all about using it as a tool
Hmm.
and then go for it.
Yes.
So I would say that in a way, Ahmed Khan is the reason that Pakistan movement was successful.
Yes.
Because to make Pakistan happen, you need a good, stable middle class. Who
Right.
can actually do big bureaucrats, who could be
Yes.
army generals.
Yes.
That happened because of Syed Ahmed Khan.
Hmm. Yes. Sir, have you read Jaisai Deepak?
I've read it. Yeah, I mean, read his first book very well.
Yes.
Second book I have not read very well. I just
Okay.
glanced it over.
Yes.
But I actually read another book on that by Somode, The Seedbed of Pakistan, which I think is very brilliant under under sort of valued book.
Yeah, India Bharat Pakistan, Desai Deepak's second book gets into all this. Sir Syed Ahmed Khan's history of.
Right. But but what I am saying is
Hmm.
from Rudra Prasad Chattopadhyay.
Right. Dr. Shomode, is he in Rishihood University?
He is in Institute University.
Yeah, I'm planning to talk to
He is
him. In my
working on a
channel.
book. Yeah,
Oh.
he's a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So, sir,
I mean, yes, sure.
since Middle Eastern people in pre-Islamic era did not always have an LTSC.
Right.
They had
do not
good
have any.
relationships with Somnath Mandir, etc. They used to come for trading, etc. What caused for them to create the LTSC all of a sudden?
I don't think all of a sudden anything happens.
Okay.
I mean, this is I don't know whether it is very. I don't know how many people are watching. Maybe it is already become a little difficult conversation, deep conversation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
This is free flowing and deep. It's high quality then.
okay, no problem. So what happened if you look at the human nature, it actually interacts with the outside nature. And this is what Rabindranath Tagore he said. He said, "Thou fire sharon no love now lost." So basically, he tried to say that I mean, if you look at the entire poem, he says that we want something. We want a lot of green trees and everything because at the end of the day, we want to beautify our inner being. Trees are not just for having trees for the sake of it. It's not no science of sustainability. I mean, we may not have that information that we have now about the science of sustainability. But he understood from his vision that basically if you want to have inner beauty, you should have outside beauty. Now what happened Middle East, it was a very high ground of civilization. The Sumer civilization was there 80,000 years ago, maybe more than that, right? But then what happened, and this is what the Jared Diamond says in his book Collapse. Jared Diamond was a polymath. He knows so many things, so many well. And this collapse, he actually analyzed many societies and showed how it happened, how it destroyed. So he says the Middle East, originally it was a lot of big civilized countries. But then what happened, they started cutting trees. And because they started cutting trees in a massive way, then what happened, it's the rain stopped. And once the rain stopped, basically rains will not come if you don't have too many trees.
Yeah.
And when the rain stopped again, the trees won't grow. It's a vicious cycle, right? So basically, because of vicious cycle, it becomes a desert. Desertification happens. And the moment desertification happens, people also try to change. They don't in a very society you had lot of living entities are there, jungles and things. So we appreciate the idea of lives interacting with each other. But then what happens the moment desertification happens? We want only a kind of a very particular kind of one monotheism kind of thing. So the monotheism, it needs a matrix, and the matrix is probably desert, where there is nothing, no other living being, only we live there, the our way or the highway. That's sort of kind of.
Yes, survival is everything.
Survival is everything, and taking and morality, ethics, and a cyclical way that has no value in it.
Right.
So I suspect a lot of these things already started happening there.
I see.
Long time, and that's why when the desertification happened, people actually went that direction. Now, of course, in lot of things before the Islamic Arab world, lot of liberty was there for the women. When Prophet's wife Khadija, she was a big businesswoman, and of course, there's a lot of trades happening and all these things,
Right.
and there's a worship. But in a way, what I would say that Prophet, he kind of, in a way, I mean, this is what Anwar Sheikh said. So it was the movement of the Prophet was more of an Arab nationalism.
I see.
So all monotheisms are already there, right? These Jewish sects were there. I mean, Prophet's wife's cousin, Warfa bin Nofal, he was a Christian. And before Prophet has his Nabihood attained,
I see.
Prophet attained his Nabihood at the age of 40.
I
But
see.
he married Khadija at the age of 25. And that's what the conventional
Yes.
wisdom is. And then basically, he used to talk to Warfa bin Nofal. And Warfa bin Nofal discuss all the theories and distinct things about the Christianity and all this kind of things. So basically, what I'm trying to say, the monotheisms are already there. But then the Prophet insisted on Allah being the name, which Allah was basically an Arab or Quraysh.
Yes.
God,
Yes.
right? Or Quraysh also some people say.
Yes.
No, but then other things like the Jehovah, this Jewish God, or
Hmm.
these things he rejected.
Hmm.
So it was a sort of a, in any nationalism, that language, that culture has to be held
Hmm.
high. Anwar Sheikh was actually discussed very deep. He has
Hmm.
a book, Islam, the Arab National Movement.
Yes.
So basically, there he talked about all these issues and how, and he said that basically this is how his national movement he tried to make,
Hmm.
so that it makes the Arabs a very powerful society. So even though Arabs were there, they are not a very powerful.
Hmm.
So they used to be already either under subjugation of the Persian Empire, who were
Hmm.
the big boss there, the Persians,
Hmm.
or in the Byzantine Empire, the
Hmm.
Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, right? They were
Hmm.
the boss.
Hmm.
They are not themselves very powerful.
Hmm.
And there's one fight, the Prophet's army with the Byzantine Empire, and actually Prophet's army got defeated. It also happened.
Hmm.
I think somewhere in the some near Iraq or somewhere. I don't remember
Okay.
the place. So basically, I'm trying to say that because of this nationalism, the Arabs they become a very powerful force.
Okay.
And because the moment you win, anything works when you win, right?
Hmm.
Anything doesn't work when you don't win. And
Yes.
then LTSC become very, very successful and
Yes.
very strong.
Then that LTSC did not change even when they reached lands where survival was not a big problem.
Because LTSC cannot be killed without defeat.
Hmm.
LTSC can be killed, but when the big defeat comes,
Hmm.
LTSC crumbles immediately.
Hmm.
So you have seen the Marxism, right? Marxism was winning in a big way. And when I was young, that was in the 1980s,
Hmm.
so many of my relatives were like communists. And they used to say, well, we are going to see the communist world in a few days. You will be lucky, they used to tell me.
Yes. Yes.
We will see the communist world. We might miss it a little bit for a while.
Right. Right.
So only one third of the people are communist that time.
Yes.
China and
Yes.
Russia, I mean, Soviet Union, all these people.
Yes.
Of course, I am seeing a different kind of communist world where it's a liberal world where
Hmm.
the center has moved from Moscow to New York
Yes.
in a way, but
Yes.
California.
Yes. Now, leftists have this criticism of prosperity in general, that terrorism or any violence happens because people are poor. Like even last year during Saraswati Puja, there was some violence between Hindus and Muslims in a Kolkata Basti, and
Mm.
even in a so-called right-wing Bengali news channel. They called
Mm.
only intellectuals that day. They did not want to fan the violence, etc. So did not bring any politicians. All the intellectuals, all the anchors agreed up amongst each other that only
Mm.
reason that riot was started by an Abrahamic faith
Mm.
was because apparently they are not very rich, and literally this is a quote from one of the intellectuals, that there's no swimming pool on their terraces, helicopters don't land on their terraces. So how much do you think poverty is a cause behind such things?
So again, you have to take a very nuanced approach to that. So one
Hmm.
thing is, of course, we know why the intellectuals are saying.
Hmm.
They are saying because they believe in the majoritarian myth. In
Hmm.
the majoritarian myth, the minority can never start anything. It is
Hmm.
always the majority who has to start.
Hmm.
That's the theory they believe in. That's why
Yes.
they are saying. Now, if you look at the people there, there is an issue here. So poverty, poverty may not. So nothing actually happens because of material reason or because of ethical reason alone.
Right.
It has to be a combination of.
Right.
So whenever a riot happens, of
Hmm.
course there has to be some ethical way people need to support.
Hmm.
Otherwise, no riot can happen. Right? There is no
Yes.
support from the larger public.
Hmm.
But then there has to be also people going to streets and doing all these things,
Hmm.
uh, doing massacres or violence. They will not do it only for the sake of ethics,
Hmm.
unless the material things are there, right?
Hmm.
Unless a loot are there, something is there,
Hmm.
then and only then they will go, right?
Hmm.
The thrill of killing is there.
Yes.
So, yeah, in a way, then the poor people are kind of it's easier to recruit these kind of people among the poor because the prices are less
Yes.
for the poor to do that, right?
Yes.
So I'm not saying poverty is not at all responsible. I will not say that, but I will say only poverty is not responsible.
Hmm.
There has to be also ethical justification in some sense,
Yes.
LTC driven or whatever way.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they would not do that.
Hmm. If we use the word religion as something divorced from dharma, then would
Mhm.
you say that religion is always necessarily an LTSE, and only times we see those religions not working as an LTSE is if the religion has faded away?
So religion, I mean, of course, this is a matter of semantics in a way.
Okay.
What is religion? Now, some people they treat the theory as religion. So I have quoted
Right.
S.N. Bal Gangadhar, whose
Hmm.
book and whose appendix I have given this
Hmm.
summary.
Hmm.
And also is a famous conservative thinker, Jewish thinker, Yoram Hazony. He
Hmm.
actually equates, he does not say political Islam or political Muslim. He
Okay.
says Islam or Christianity kind of
I
thing
see.
as imperialism.
I
But
see.
my point is, if you look at a person,
Hmm.
religious, a person who believes in a religion,
Hmm.
can he, can he really identify that this part is coming from the theory, this part is I
Right. Right.
think inside
Hmm.
me? I think that separation is may not be there.
Hmm.
Uh, so I don't really feel like that you can really say this is entirely good or entirely bad.
Hmm.
Uh, so I would say that I mean reformation is sort of the way to go forward.
Hmm. Would you call communism or Marxism a religion, or would you say it's just an ideology with an LTSC?
I mean, actually, Harari called them equivalent. These are called them modern religions.
Hmm.
Liberalism, Marxism, and Nazism.
Hmm.
But Noah Harari, he called them each of them modern religion.
Hmm.
But I would say that so I have not told them religion because they are not claiming themselves to be religion.
Okay.
But they are definitely LTSC, which they are also saying that we are LTSC, right?
Hmm.
Marxists. Actually, I would say that liberals or Marxists, their LTSCs are superior to Islam or Christianity, even though I mean, political Islam or Christianity,
Hmm.
even though it may not look like.
Hmm.
So if you go to an average Muslim or average Christian, if you ask them that are you the best person because of you are Muslim, many
Hmm.
of them would say no. We have to do right karma, we have
Right.
to do good. That's all
Yes.
right. But if you go to any communist, you say, no, are you the progressive? Are you the best because you're a communist? You say, yeah, of course, you're not progressive enough. That's why you cannot be a communist,
Hmm.
right? You say the liberal, you say, no, are you the best? Because yes, we are the best because you're liberal, right? You
Yes.
go to
Like
any
Thomas Sowell
Christian liberal,
says,
he'll say
on the side of angels.
that. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
So, why was such an LTSC born at the hands of Karl Marx in Germany in full privilege, in beautiful climate, etc.?
So what happens is human beings, they are actually subject to their own domain and environment.
Hmm.
They cannot think something. So what happened to Marx, Karl Marx, he was a very erudite scholar, and
Hmm.
I respect him a lot of the things. So
Okay.
what happens, he actually see the European history as the mainstream of history.
Hmm.
And if you see the European history, it's a matter of LTSs, right? Which
Hmm.
LTS is going and which is dominating and
Hmm.
things. And he sees that this is the only way to history to move on.
Hmm.
That's what he thought about.
Hmm.
And this he thought about this is one kind of an NTSC that will not have any identity in some sense.
Hmm.
And then it will only based on rich and poor and therefore creating a society.
Hmm.
So because of he thought like that, and he also had this end of history kind of thing in common,
Hmm.
that he has this idea of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis.
Hmm.
But this is the last time this is happening. So
Right.
and right, so that's what is actually transpired in his domain, right? In his
Hmm.
theory.
Yes. And can antithesis ever happen if there is no free speech?
So antithesis will always happen. So even though there
Okay.
is no free speech, what
I
will
see.
happen? Suppose let's say in many places, right? How this Mughal rule in India failed. There's no free speech. But then what will happen? Then basically people will revolt, right? In some sense, or there might be fight among two people
Hmm.
based on who will take the bigger share of the profit.
Right.
And if you look at the Bangladesh, how was it created?
Hmm.
So basically, when East Pakistan was created, right, all were in the same side. But then a group they actually found out that they are not getting as much
Yeah.
as they could have get the share of power,
Yes.
right? And they kind of fought it.
Yes.
So I'm saying the society will always move, but will it move in a path of dharma or adharma?
Hmm.
If you only try to make it in without any ahimsa, then only it will move towards dharma.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it will go to the violence.
Yes.
Society will never be static. It will always kind of be dynamic.
Yes. And do you see any similarity between socialism, I mean Gandhian socialism, integral humanism, or what the current government is doing in terms of economics, and what Amartya Sen would be called developmental economics? All these are these things same?
Now, Gandhiji, when he says Gandhian socialism,
Hmm.
Gandhiji actually did not see a socialist country.
Okay.
He actually, in a way, I have a lot of respect for Gandhiji. I mean,
Hmm.
in spite of, I know a lot of people are very angry with Gandhiji for
Hmm.
his politics and other things.
Hmm.
So I'm not even I'm not going to that.
Hmm.
But I'm saying one thing I have to respect about Gandhiji. He tried to say that our Indic civilizational values are the best for
Hmm.
us to govern. This he said very proudly. And he's probably the last person to say that. I mean, in some sense.
Hmm.
After that, his Nehruvian consensus
Yes.
begins, and then everything was kind of thrown away.
Right.
What Gandhiji says socialism, he does not say that you have to uproot the social structure.
Hmm.
He says change the view of the human beings. And all the people who are businessmen, they will actually make profit, but they will fund their money like Tatas are doing in some sense, in good activities, right? In this and that. So in a way, he was actually talking about, he thought about a trustee system.
Okay.
And in the trustee system, these businessmen, they will act as the trustee of the society. They'll take money, but they will not actually go, they will not use the money for their own son's marriage in a grand way. They will use the money to build universities. They will make the money to make big projects for irrigation. Like this kind of, that was the kind of the
Right.
idea. So it has not happened in a way. I would
Yeah.
say it has not happened. Integral humanism, I would not say it is very far. It is also very similar. But the problem is all these things, they are missing one thing. All these things does not happen automatically. This happens because you have to create values in society where money is not deemed as great, where the dharma or virtuous acts are shown as the great. That society we are not trying to even create, right? So we have to then basically change the education system. It has to be more of a value-based system, more on a based of act-based, ritual-based system. We actually take education very lightly. We say education, read this and do the exam. That's not education. Education is you have to make yourself a better person, edification of your mind.
Yes.
That actually creates a lot of struggle between the teacher and the discipline. Right? That is completeness
Yes.
in a way.
What Chanakya said, that Sukhasya Mulam Artha, Arthasya Mulam Dharma. USA kind of has bypassed that and has gone Sukhasya Mulam Artha. So even if you know the line said by Chanakya, it's not going to be applied in real life, right? So I guess nothing can really work without incentives. How do we enforce an incentive structure which incentivizes having values or learning values?
So in a way, what we have to do, so the idea is basically that people mimic the elites.
Right.
The moment elites, they actually prefer dharma over artha, then only then, I agree, in a way incentives has to be there in level. But there is a bigger than that, the cultural milieu. How people treat the success of a man.
Yes.
Do people call me a success because I am an honest person? Or do people call me a success because I am a billionaire? I think we all know the answer, what is the current society, what is the state of the affairs now.
Yes.
So now this is happening because we know our political leaders, the moment they get power, they are not trying to show an exemplary ethics. They have a lot of them. There are some exceptions definitely. A lot of them, they try to make houses in their foreign lands and money in that, all this kind of. Then how would you really grow ethics? Then people know this is the great because they are the leaders. They are doing that. So we have to. This is the right thing to do. So what you see in the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, our elite, they used to do that. We are doing the best of the sacrifice. When Rama was sent right to this exile, actually Dasarath told him that I have given my word, but you have not given your word. So you do a rebel and take the kingdom away, and all the prajas, all the subjects, everybody was with him only. He could have taken it away, but he saw that this way his dharma will not increase. That's the argument he has given. So people will not say he's a great person because he has taken the away. Right?
Yes.
If you see the same story in Mahabharata also. So basically, there's a story that in Arjuna, he was actually tried to give a Brahmin. So some thief actually taken some higher instruments away from a Brahmin. So then basically he came to a complaint, lodged a complaint, and then Arjuna had to take his weapon, which was in the room where his Yudhishthira and Draupadi were there, and he entered and he actually gave it away. Now the rule among the Pandavas was that basically one of them is with the Draupadi, then the other brothers cannot enter. If they enter, they will go 12-year exile or something like that. So the moment he has done that, he said that I am going to exile, and then everybody tried to say no. Yudhishthira himself said that you are my younger brother. You can always come in my room. I cannot go when you are there. But he said no. If I do all these things, people will say that this person has strict dharma. He is not as great as you think.
Right.
So then, if the elite has to change, does not change the value, then it is very difficult for the others to do that.
Don't you think that's now kind of beginning to happen because of Ambani proudly showing off their Hindu credentials, doing puja, etc., going to Ram Mandir?
See, I think the idea of dharma is lot of sacrifice. I mean, it is a little bit of good for the Hindu nationalists to see that Hindu values are celebrated. We are not being colonial.
Hmm.
This is a good thing, I would say. I will not say it's a bad thing.
Hmm.
But then there is a superior thing,
Hmm.
which is about negation.
Hmm.
Now, I would say that if the prime minister, current prime minister, he leaves his job
Hmm.
at a particular age,
Hmm.
and he says that I am now going to go around the India
Hmm.
and do only sadhana like the Pandavas has done.
Hmm.
Then people will be more inspired, right? They will know that someone actually can throw away this. This is our tradition of our emperors.
Yes.
Chandragupta Maurya, he has thrown away, he has given his emperor.
Yes.
That's how people got this value.
Yes.
So if you see that kind of being done by the leaders, then and only then we'll have something, right?
Yes.
I don't think ethics will come otherwise just by me saying or someone saying.
Hmm.
It has to come from the very top.
Right. Yes. I know academics don't like to talk about things outside their field, but I'm asking you so many questions outside your field and even outside your book, because first of all, it's so much fun to just talk about so many things I was curious about and talk about it with such a learned person as yourself. But also I'm curious about what does an economist think about these things. That's also a perspective I'm trying to get into.
Now, economics, I see. The point is, economics cannot be a very discipline unaffected by everything.
Right.
So, when economics actually started, it started by a philosopher. His name is Adam Smith.
Hmm.
Adam Smith was actually used to actually a professor in a way in Edinburgh University, Scotland. And then he quit his job and he became a tutor of a duke.
Okay.
Because he wrote some books and they are very good.
Hmm.
Now he did not think this Wealth of Nations. He has a book Wealth of Nations. It is published in 1776.
Yes.
And this is called thought of the beginning of the economics in a
Yes.
way. Now, of course, he did not see himself this book as the best because they did not encompass many other things. He thought he has some other books which are going to be good. Now, what happened that in Europe there's a Protestant revolution going on.
Yes.
And the Protestant revolution, when it is going on, they were first trying to divorce from the idea of Pope's authority. Then the second thing they know, I mean, this revolution was supported by the kings, and kings wanted to basically defy the Pope.
Right.
So that's how this was gaining strength, right? And the nationalism narrative was discovered.
Secularism, separation of church and state,
nationalism.
all of that.
As it came nationalism, then it came basically in a way liberalism, which is John Locke started, and then the secularism started. So in all these narratives, they have tried to divorce the idea of ethics. So they said that the religion was earlier a very important thing. Whether you will do this and that, let's see what our religion says. Now, what they said, okay, the religion, Protestant Christianity says, okay, religion is not so much about your what you do a ritual. It's a faith. You believe in God, and that's pretty much it. That faith. It's
right.
We don't care. And the moment you said, so basically you divorce ethics, then economics becomes the only way, right? I mean, if you do not have dharma, then why you would do things? Only for earth. So that's why the economics is kind of born, right? In a way, subjectly insulated by that.
I see.
So then in this atmosphere, Adam Smith's theory became very popular. And then this grew as a discipline. Yes. But before, and even that time, it was not to be called economics. It used to be economics. It used to be called political economics.
Okay.
So when so the first program in economics is started in Cambridge or Oxford. It was by a very famous economist Marshall, and he's in that time the program was called political economy. Okay. So that was the program name. And then eventually the idea of economics came basically after the Second World. So you see it's a very divorced way it started, right? So when it started originally an ethical thing, then ethics was divorced, then political economy was born, then politics was kind of again made a bit of segregation, and then you basically have this economics. So this, what I'm trying to say that economics, as an economics professor, I have used a lot of economic theories in my book. Ronald Coase is very famous economist, Hayek and all these things. But I'm saying the economics cannot be said as an abstraction from the society. then will not be able to answer many of the questions.
Right. No wonder they keep coming up with bad ideas as well.
Yeah, that is also true.
Yes.
And but one reason that I could answer many of your questions is because I have a passion for an empirical social sciences to create it like that. So I have to study all the background and everything
Yes.
to understand the greater perspective and the big picture.
Yes. Have you read Max Weber?
Max Weber's book, yeah, there's a very famous book,
Protestant Ethic.
Christian Protestant Ethics and the Rise of Capitalism.
Spirit of Capitalism.
A Spirit of Capitalism, yeah.
There his argument is that Protestantism somehow leads you to work hard, and that is the ethos that created capitalism. How much do you think
this is actually supported? So there are many ethical studies actually done in Harvard, studies called Moral Machine. You can Google and see it. And there you have seen the Protestant countries give a very different kind of morality a lot of the times compared to the Catholic countries. This is also acknowledged in Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book, I think the Black Swan or something.
I see.
Where basically one Italian professor, he said that you are saying all these things because you grew up in an Orthodox or Catholic kind of tradition. Protestant tradition, we will say something different. All these things kind of.
Yes. Sir, when we were discussing democracy, I had this question in mind. I saved it for now. That usually the defenders of democracy say that anything other than democracy, it will be very hard for you to kick out a bad person from power. So, if at all the king is bad, what do we do then?
So, the idea of in India, so basically there is a problem, there is an inherent difference in view. So, Western views, they like to say static equilibrium. The theory guides the static equilibrium, right? This is the end of history or democracy, this is the last solution, liberal democracy. In India, we don't believe in that. We believe the world is always in a flux. It is not, there is no equilibrium is possible. So we call it, we have in our views, it's called the age of Shiva and the age of Shakti.
Okay.
In the age of Shiva, things are static. In the age of Shakti, the revolutions and upheavals. So basically, there are a lot of clauses in our scriptures and the scriptures is the wrong word. It's our text, Indian text, that actually talks about that. Basically, when there's a king who is actually very persecuting, you have to remove that. So there's a lot of support for that. And there's a lot of tradition for that. I think Saradindu Bandyopadhyay, a lot of the stories, he has shown that how a tyrant king was brought down by the thing. Like Kangshu was brought down, right? By the...
But that will require you to take up arms, go get killed and kill people. But on the other hand, you can just vote on the ballot box, so that's more fun.
But the point is, is there any chance of vote? If you look at going to this Iran, right? You will not see the candidate on the ballot. Forget about voting right away.
Yes.
Right? Even if you see America, which is called the Makkah of democracy in some sense, right? You see how hard the other people are trying to remove the name of Donald Trump from the ballot paper.
Yeah.
So they are trying to make sure that his name is not there, so they are winning.
Right.
So I'm saying, then when corruption prevails, the democracy will not work as it is, right? Like in their illegals are coming and they are saying the illegals also can vote in a way.
Yeah.
So it is very sad affair.
Yes. Now, sir, we are nearing the end of our conversation.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on socialism or developmental economics versus free market, Thomas Sowell kind of economics? Where do you stand?
Developmental means a state plan, you were trying to say.
Yes. Welfare, freebies versus completely libertarian, like as Thomas Sowell would have it.
Yeah, so I mean, Thomas Sowell is actually dictating in a very different socio-political reality. So policy prescriptions cannot be universal. It has to based on the reality we are basing it, right? So I think in a way, it is always good to give hungry people food. That's what is kind of, I think this is so I will say, I will not say that you remove welfare economics completely. Because you need to give hungry people food and other. But then the problem is, does it stop there? If it doesn't stop there, then it becomes a big problem and it kills the impetus of the people, right?
Yes.
So that's why what is a big problem is, I think the current era, it is an era of centralization.
Yes.
We make all the decisions very centrally and people don't see the implications of the decision. So what I actually am more of a Gandhian person in that front.
Okay.
I will say that give a lot of autonomy to the villages. So villages, they need to get their taxes, they need to run their schools, they need to run their hospitals. Then they will learn. That, I mean, some villages will not go do well, but a
Right.
lot of villages will learn over time, and they will learn from others' bad experiences, and
Yes.
they will know what works, what doesn't work. Right?
Hmm.
Why you can purchase boats by money?
Hmm.
Because the people are think that money grows on trees. You're getting, you'll always get it. They don't understand that you don't go, and if you see bad, bad policies, then everything will backfire. Right?
Yes.
We'll have a Sri Lanka kind of situation where things will go.
Yeah.
But then that is happening because people don't see it.
Hmm.
You cannot have, this is the problem of the theoretical education.
Hmm.
You only cannot learn, you can learn only so much
Hmm.
from theory. A lot of the times you don't.
Hmm.
But then experience, it teaches you much, much better. You
Hmm.
just take here is the challenge. You go to a person, your leftist friend, try to argue with him, even if you hundreds of hours, you will not learn anything. But just take him to Venezuela or Nicaragua, Venezuela, where things are crumbling, where people are looting, all these things.
Yeah.
You learn very quickly.
But he will say
I'm sure
that that's not real socialism, that's not real communism.
no, that is okay. He might say to you an argument, but I'm saying in the Venezuela, if you go
Yeah.
to the places where socialism failed,
Yeah.
there people actually very, very, they get very good experience and they become
Right,
a
right.
lot of the times good anti-com. Right? How did Tom Sowell become anti-communist?
Right.
Because he understood that communism doesn't work from his
Yes.
experience. Right?
Yes.
So I'm saying that villages people should have understanding that this money does not grow on trees. You have to work hard and things. It is good to give a little bit of welfare to hungry people. You don't want anyone to die or things like that. But you cannot really expect welfare to raise the masses. You have to do
Right.
hard work and everything.
Yeah.
And that relation only comes when the decision comes decentralized to the village. That's the, and you see, look, people have a lot of passion for their own locality or their village. Right? They have a lot of issues. They can do a lot of things. But the problem is the way our panchayats are run. It has become a dole-based institution. You give some dole, and then you use the panchayat as a leverage. Right? If you are with my party, I'll give you this money. Otherwise, I'll not give you or something like that. And then basically it destroys the creativity and all these things. It
Yeah.
makes it a very kind of, I would say, a den of crooks who are basically trying to manipulate people. So, but we make it a very effective institution, and that's why many good people, they are living in the villages. They see no productivity there. It's a vicious cycle. They are going to the city, and then villages becoming even worse. So,
Yeah.
to make it reverse, you actually give to a lot of power back to them, and that is something. Unfortunately, it's not their Indian agenda, but this has to be there in the agenda if you have a sustainable civilization and peace.
Sir, since as I told you, I'm a college dropout from third year. All my
Yeah, yeah.
economics knowledge is from one microeconomics course on Coursera and 4.5 books of Thomas Sowell, and listening to Thomas Sowell and people like him, Ben Shapiro, etc. a lot, and reading a bit of Milton Friedman's son's book. On a radical capitalism, etc. So it will be probably stupid to try to debate with you, but I have some curiosity about these things. That are any people today poor in India or actually hungry in India because of not getting welfare, or wouldn't they be actually prosperous if we didn't tax them also in order to feed them free food? Because everyone is paying taxes in some way or the other. Everything you are buying, you are paying GST, etc. If we eliminated all these taxes, even income tax, we could hire someone. We could, or even if we don't run the business ourselves, we could all be investors in some friend's business. They could hire all these so-called poor people, hungry people. Would they be poor enough to not be able to afford food? Wouldn't they be prosperous enough to afford healthcare, school, everything?
No, so the problem is it is possible that I take your point. It is possible that 80% people will do very well if taxes are removed and subsidies are also removed. But it is possible that 10% people,
Right.
let's say in the hinterlands,
Right.
they will do not well because there is no opportunity of employment or anything like that.
Also, IQ is not going to be same for everyone.
And I think another question is, the problem is we are promoting colonialism even now. Why? How? Because we are not letting people run their own institutions. They got so used to the dole culture and everything, they will not be able to imagine the world without them.
That is true.
So decentralization is actually a real challenge, but this has to be started at some level. Otherwise, we will not never learn, and therefore some big shock comes, then the civilization may crumble. So the beauty of our civilization is decentralized power. We never had a one centralized power. It was already different states controlling these and different lands, and there can be some paths. some kind of facts. There can be some Samrat or Ekrat based on these capabilities. We allow, consider him the guardian of the civilization.
Yeah.
But it is always different people, right?
Right.
That kind of decentralized power is the power of Hinduism in some sense, if you want to say that, use the term.
Yeah.
The Buddhists, they died because they are very centralized. They are all based on these biharas, right, where the
I see.
education being there and all this kind of. So
Yeah.
that's where.
Now, so last two questions. First is that how did you start reading up these people, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Thomas Sowell, etc., who are considered sort of the untouchables in academia?
Yeah, I think I would be also untouchable in a way, but
You will soon
but
be.
I think how it happened that I always wanted to understand the reality, and I could have a better career than what I am now, but I didn't try that
Okay.
because I wanted to always work on some things that I wanted to do.
Okay.
So that's why I actually managed the time. So I have in a sense, I built two CVs. One for what you see on my website and everything. The other thing you don't see, but I'm trying to get readings and all the other things that is sort of not considered mainstream in academia. But Thomas Sowell is sort of still okay because he is in a think tank, but of course, he does not have much mainstream clout in a way.
Yeah, and people hate him because he's black. That black होके ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया?
But I think I like his autobiography. This book is called A Personal Odyssey.
Yes.
Where he actually explained last chapter was a very good introspective chapter. He explained why he became what he had become. So basically that's what. So basically he said that because he suffered from the black, so he suffered from the black, which instilled in him desire to do succeed well in life. But he did not have this affirmative action, so he did not have to go to a lower bars or something like that, and that's how it made him. Basically, I would say in the words of Vivekananda, he has this Atman inside him, which actually got developed because he tried.
Right. And what is your political upbringing like? What were your views growing up?
So my maternal grandfather, he was a whole-timer communist. He was actually a freedom fighter, but what happened that in 1942, when the British quit India movement, he participated. And when these people, they went to the jail, British give them this Marxist literature. There's a sort of an undertaking between the British government and the CPGB, Communist Party of Great Britain. The Communist Party of Great Britain will not trouble them that much in Britain, but they could actually will be given access to Indian jails so that they can develop a lot of communism here.
I see.
So all the people there, like Jyoti was, right? He was sent from there, Rajinivam Datta and all these people sent by CPGB.
Right.
Now what happened then? These people, so he became a communist in jails. So my maternal side is full communist kind of thing. My father was also communist, but when I was not very old, he got lapsed. So I have good exposure of everything in a way, I would say, because I have a good exposure of communism. Also, my father, because he became anti-communist, he also said the other things. So I have a lot of other things in a way. But what I would say that I have a very good passion for reading. So I used to read a lot of books. So someone said that Hitler is bad. So I said, okay, we need to know why Hitler is bad. When in high secondary or something like that, I bought the book Mein Kampf and read it from the cover to cover very well. And then I tried to understand him. And it actually helped because I used to read a lot of different people. When untouchable people like Hitler, it actually helped me understand a lot of perspective, I would say.
Yes. Sir, sorry, I have two more questions now. First
is your viewers are probably all away.
No. We are used to this. My highest podcast is 4 hours for 40 minutes long.
All right, go ahead.
Sir, first of all, it seems that it took you huge amounts of research. How long did it take you to write this book, and then have you planned something next as well?
Yeah, so there are two things on this book. First, what I tried to understand India. So that actually I tried to read a lot of the Indic literature and read a lot of. I think I have done a lot of other work which I will not disclose now all of it.
Okay.
But it is there in the background. But that actually I spent 10 years or more on that. Then
see.
after that, I started. That was like, and then after from 2014 or so, I started to think about writing something on social sciences.
Okay.
But what is the mainstream social sciences is there, but I
Hmm.
thought that there's a lot of issues with this mainstream theories,
Hmm.
and I need to do something else.
Hmm.
So it was again another 10 years almost. It is like 10 years now
Hmm.
that I've started the others doing this study.
Hmm.
So this is the first book, just an application of the our my parallel view of the social sciences.
I see.
Now, another book I have in mind is about the empirical Indian governance, Indic governance, civilizational governance,
I see.
which is an application on how India actually did not have any theory but managed governance very well over so
Oh,
many thousands of years,
I
so that
see.
the civilization survived well.
I
So
see.
there is a book that is.
I see.
I mean,
Nice.
I need to sell this book little better
Hmm.
to launch that book.
Yeah. It's doing pretty well, I think.
It is well, but okay. If you see personal glory was, I'm a first time author. Book is it
Yeah.
started in political theory list, as you know, it was 20th.
Yeah.
It was well,
Hmm.
but then if you look at the my idea of the disturbing the narrative
Hmm.
of vegetarian narrative,
Yeah.
you need to do even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes.
I think this is the problem that pioneers always face. That is what you are facing. That Savarkar, Sitaram Goel, they didn't get any recognition. But you see, now the arguments that I have learned from here, I am talking about them all the day. Because so far, every time I was faced with, or any of are faced with the argument of majoritarianism, we have to go into just anecdotal evidence. No, see here, majoritarianism did not work. Here, it did not work. Now we have a counter theory to use it
I
as a
have given
weapon.
another theory. What I have done, the proponents of majoritarianism, they never test their theory. So I tested the
Yes.
theory
Yes.
against their mind and shown what
Yes.
has greater depth.
Yes.
So, so,
So
yeah,
you
so
see,
I think, no, if this viewers are there, I would request all of them to read. So read the book. But one thing is I have to, if I go to my Twitter handle, my website is there, and there you can go to the page on my book. The slides of the book are there. The
okay.
slides on the
Hmm.
so they can actually use that slides to it is easier to read with the
Hmm.
slides summarized.
Yeah. The book is very precise and concise, and I learned so many laws, history of different countries, all in 2-3 pages. And uh, I think your views, the things you have propagated here, will become more popular because of your readers in future. But you won't directly see the results as of now.
No, I don't need to see the results. So this is what why I dedicated my book to my teacher, who was
Yes. Yes.
actually a monk,
Yes.
and he actually in a way he taught me the idea of karma yoga.
Hmm.
That you don't need to see the results. You have to do the positive karma and be happy with
Yes. Yes.
whatever you are having.
Yes, I think I foresee that this will have long sustaining repercussions for next 10-20 years, because people know about this book in these circles, and they are not going to lose any debate in front of a majoritarianism spewing guy anymore.
Only problem is that space for debates is actually become very narrow now.
Yes.
It's become very polarized
Yeah.
because of actually liberalism. But anyway,
Yeah, actually,
that's
no one
it.
wants to debate, and I think most people know deep down that they don't, in fact, have the skills to debate. I am planning to have debates in my podcast. Hope I'll get you
That would be
sometime.
nice. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Now, so last question, that something you said an hour back, that even if you are educated and you end up reading just communist books, then that does not matter. But I have many viewers who say that I don't want to read anyone who is non-Indian, and in fact, I don't want to read anything that's not even coming out of Garuda Prakashan. Garuda Prakashan is their favorite publisher. They are not going to read anything other than Garuda Prakashan.
But I don't think that is also a right view. I mean, I
Hmm.
think you should read everyone.
Hmm.
At least if you are a scholarly profession.
Yeah.
In the other ways also, you should actually see the reality and see
Yeah, why exactly? Why should I read someone who I think or I know is bad, or holds a bad ideology?
because what is the point is okay. You need to read at least some seminal books
Hmm.
of that, even though we consider wrong. So
Hmm.
what happens then if you don't read something, you close the mind.
Hmm.
It may not lead a problem now,
Hmm.
but this attitude will lead to problem later. So, so that is what is the problem I see.
Yes.
So now you see the point is this good and bad. They are not a very steady thing. Someone is
Right.
not always good. Someone is not always bad, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you see my grandfather, he was a maternal grandfather. He was with the communists.
Hmm.
And then I would say maybe if I were born that time,
Hmm.
maybe I were also a communist.
Hmm.
because probably that was the right thing to do and the
Yeah.
social perspective to do.
Yes.
But of course, it is not the right thing now.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying with the same point of view, you can have very different points. So, but
Yeah.
that if you don't have exposure to different forces,
Yes.
then you are not going to be able to move up, right?
Yes.
You will actually stuck.
Yes. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us, and we had a brilliant conversation. I think, in my opinion, at least, we got into many other things, and actually, I wanted it to be that way. It was so interesting to learn so many things from you, and it was a
It was
free
all my
flowing
pleasure.
conversation. More importantly,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.